Now, I know I literally just reviewed a Jurassic Park game, but I wanted to take a moment, and hopefully a short moment, to touch on the immediate sequel to the first game, Jurassic Park Rampage Edition for the Sega Genesis. Now, this was by the same developer, released, I think, about a year after the first game, not long, and it's fucking weird, alright? That's the best way I could describe it. It's just a weird-ass game. But it does still have a seriously badass title screen. See, the thing about this game is that, really, it is absolutely nothing like the first one in most regards. The first one was more about surviving. This game's more about shooting the living crap out of everything and everyone, as Alan Grant. I'm fairly certain, and this is just a theory, that because the first game probably sold pretty well, the developer for the second game was authorized to do basically whatever they damn well pleased, and in the first game, they took liberties with the plot. This time, they took all the liberties with the plot, so now there is nothing referencing the movie or anything of that nature. It's a completely different plot where Alan Grant does stuff that Alan Grant would never do, like burn people with a flamethrower, which is one of the many weapons you can get. Remember I mentioned in the first game how all the weapons were non-lethal? Totally opposite situation here. Every single weapon, with the exception of the standard dart gun, which you always have on you in case you run out of ammo, will murder the crap out of everything! The idea is to run around and kill dinosaurs, but you're fighting off other humans too. I'm not exactly sure on the plot of this game. I don't really feel like looking it up. But I assume that's explained somewhere, or maybe not. Maybe the developer really doesn't care and wanted to just make a game set on Isla Sorna, where Alan Grant runs around and kills everyone. Even the levels are somewhat alien. There's like ancient temples, and well, I guess there would be a dock that was in the movie. Shortly, but it was in the movie. And the field level kind of reminds me of that scene where the T-Rex devours some Gallimimus up in this bitch. But the first level is this giant Pteranodon cage, which really weirds me out because that shit didn't happen until the third movie on a completely different island, unless this is set on Isla Sorna, but I'm pretty sure this was frickin' made before the second novel was released. Therefore, how could they? I don't even. No, I'm not even gonna try to figure this out. It doesn't matter. The developer gave no fucks. Why should I? Fuck it. Okay, look, you're Alan Grant. You're running around. You are killing everything. That is your mission. I actually think the mission is to run around and actually try to save dinosaur species from something. I again don't really pay attention to the plot. Whatever. It doesn't matter. And in the process, just shoot everything. And before I dwell into the gameplay some more, let me just cover the graphics and sound. Sound is just as good as the first one, so no complaints there. And the graphics are a little bit weird, though. Like, Alan Grant has this weird black outline around him. I'm not really sure what that's about. I don't know. Some things look a little bit inconsistent, like the graphics are rushed or badly imported or whatever. I'm not sure how to explain it, but they still look good enough, so no big deal. But the gameplay is almost completely different. Like, it's still a platformer action game, but as opposed to the first game where you were more surviving than anything, this game's more about, again, killing everything. There's less exploring and looking around this time. It's more about get to the end of the level and kill everything in your path. That's really the main idea of the game. And another contrast to the first one, there's actually no fall damage in this game, which is pretty frickin' weird, especially considering in the first game a lot of the reasons you would die was from falling in various locations. In fact, I would argue most of the time you were dead because you fell too hard. Especially in that first level with all the frickin' spikes. But here, no, it's completely different. There's no fall damage. In fact, the frickin' birdcage level, you have to get to the bottom of the place. You can jump all the way down and take absolutely no damage. It's a very weird feeling, especially just coming from playing the first game, where almost all the damage you took was from falling. Another thing, though, despite the game being more combat-heavy, I think there are actually less weapons in this game, which is bizarre. I'm not sure whether they ran out of time to add new weapons, or they just didn't feel like making more death animations. I don't really know how to explain that one. But, yeah, I'm fairly certain there were more weapons in the first game, but there are more lethal weapons in this game, because they're all lethal. Even the dart gun, which apparently kills things too. I don't know how that works. Whatever. You ride Gallimimus and Triceratops. What? Like, seriously, the developers just did not care with this one. This game's more about mindless fun than having a serious plot. You know what? I can't really complain about that. Now, I usually prefer my movie games to actually at least try to follow the movie they're based on, but since this is a sequel to a game that was already based on the movie, I don't mind the developer having a bit of mindless fun with it, even if it doesn't make much sense. And the game makes no sense overall. But you know what? It's fun to play. I will say, though, that it's far more challenging than the first one in a lot of ways. Again, more combat heavy, I really meant that. And another, to compel that, there's two things compel that. One is that there's just more enemies. There are tons of enemies, where the first game there were there weren't, I don't want to say there were few enemies, but there were way less than this game. In this game, they're everywhere. In the first game, they weren't all over the place. They were there, but not like this. And the other thing is that the enemies in this game are way more aggressive. They want you dead, and they want you dead right now. And as soon as they see you on the screen, they will come over and beat your face in. You have to react very quickly. I guess they wanted to make the game more actiony, and I guess that helps, but it does make the game a lot harder. You tend to die a lot more, which is weird, because in the first game you tended to die from falling all the time because the platforming was kind of finicky. But here, there's just so many enemies, always coming at you, that you're just gonna keep dying just from being shot, and it's very difficult sometimes. Also, and this makes everything worse, there's no password system. So, once you game over and have to restart everything. At least in the first game, while it could be tough, you had basically infinite chances to try each level. Here, no, that's not the case, and that can make things a bit difficult. I should also mention that you can again play as the Velociraptor in this game, but the controls for her are a little messed up. They changed things. I think the biggest change would be that instead of a huge super jump that like you had in the first game, now you have this weird, awkward double jump that doesn't always seem to work, and you kind of spaz out sometimes. I'm also fairly sure she can't grab onto ledges anymore and climb herself up, which can make platforming a bit more difficult. But there's a trick with the Raptor that I figured out, and this actually kind of works for Grant too, and this makes the entire game so much easier. I have figured out that it is actually a lot easier to get through the game by running past most of the enemies. I only figured this out recently. It took me forever to realize this, but in most of the levels, especially as the Raptor because she's so frickin' fast, it's actually much more to your benefit to jump over enemies and run away from them, because by attacking them, that gives them opportunity to shoot you in the face a lot more, so you end up taking less damage by avoiding them. I don't think that's the game. That's the way the game is meant to be played. But let me tell you, it sure as hell makes a really tough game a lot easier to play. Is it cheating? I don't really know whether I'd call it cheating. It's more of an exploit than anything, or maybe an AI bug. I couldn't even call it that, because the enemies do chase you. It's just, oh, you know what it is? I'll tell you what it is. When you're playing as the Velociraptor especially, there are no enemy raptors for you to fight until the final boss. Don't ask me what's going on with the final boss. I don't understand this thing at all. Whereas Grant, they're your most threatening enemy because they're so frickin' fast and will beat your face in almost immediately. With the Raptor, you don't fight any enemy raptors, so almost nothing ever chases you. So it's a lot easier to run past enemies, and again, you take less damage, so if you're having trouble beating this game or getting through it, just try not fighting anything, I guess. Wow, what a bizarre exploit. But still, despite that, and despite my other minor complaints, this game is a hell of a lot of fun to play. It's more mindless action than anything, again, in stark contrast to the first Genesis game, but I'd still recommend giving it a try, just for the sake of fun. It's an enjoyable experience, just for the sake of action. So, I can't really bash it for that. So with that, this is Darkness, and I bid you all a fond farewell.